Recently, Bay District school officials voted on a contract for the new Tommy Oliver Stadium construction. It'll cost almost $12 million, paid with taxpayer money.
And that, once again, is the voter-approved half-cent sales tax, and it's long been praised as the only way the district could finance renovations and upgrades. But where does the money come from? Where's it going? Tonight, News Channel 7's Leanna Scacchetti investigates.
Bay District school leaders say the half-cent sales tax has grown each year, and without it,
a lot of our schools, the infrastructure of those schools would greatly suffer.
The money generated can be used for technology upgrades and renovation of older schools. It's also used to build extra classrooms and new schools.
The amount of projects that we do has been enormous, and the impact's been very, very important to our students.
But the recent contracts for Tommy Oliver Stadium raised some questions about where the money is coming from and where it's being spent. In 2010, Citizens Oversight Committee member Bob Miller says he and two other members examined dozens of project requests. He says they made recommendations to the school board about which proposals fit the tax and which were needs as opposed to wants. Miller says the board then approved a priorities list in August of 2010. Now, Miller says the committee's role is to ensure the money is spent in accordance with the tax. Oversight committee members are appointed by the board, the superintendent, the Panama City Beach Chamber of Commerce, and the Bay County Chamber of Commerce.
We do not select the projects. That's the purview of the school board itself. We're only there to see that the money is being spent properly.
Why can't the district just give a little something to every single school in the way of infrastructure?
We go back to that list. Again, there's pros and there's cons.
The school board can vote to move projects up the list or modify them. Moss says they're not able to add projects to the list, but the district tells us there's no written rule against that. The schools east of the Hathaway Bridge have clearly dominated the district's half-cent to-do list for high school infrastructure upgrades. Since 2000, Bay High has received about $16 million, plus about $12 million if you factor in the new stadium. Additional renovations for Bay are also on the list. Mosley has received more than $10 million for infrastructure upgrades. Rutherford got at least $24 million. Almost every school in the district received money for new roofing and technology upgrades, but Dean, Bozeman, and Arnold have not yet received half-cent dollars for infrastructure projects like the other high schools. Bozeman has one project near the bottom of the list. Arnold is not on the list for an infrastructure project. We asked Steve Moss, who represents the Beach District, what he thinks of Arnold not being on the priority list, considering district officials tell us much of the tax is generated through tourism.
I can't wait till the opportunity for them to be on that list, because when I visit these schools, it's pretty easy to see some of the needs they have from an infrastructure standpoint. It's really easy. And to your point earlier in regards to how the half-cent sales tax funds are raised, if you see the months where they spike, sure enough, most of them are the summer months.
Moss says some upgrades to Arnold have come from other funding sources, but says the school has needs that could be met with half-cent dollars. Superintendent Husfeldt says high schools like Bozeman and Arnold don't need as much because they're newer.
School projects happen about every 20-plus years. And so Bozeman did not get any projects because they weren't that old, but they'll be up on the next list that we do.
Bozeman and Arnold opened in 2000, but North Bay Haven Charter Academy, whose current campus opened in 2014, is on the list, receiving $3 million for its gym.
When you get a school that's not even 10 years old, you're not going to be on a list to get projects done.
Then how did North Bay Haven get on the list?
Because it was on the list. That was a request that North Bay Haven turned into us.
Well, those parents and those students that attend North Bay Haven, right? They're taxpayers, just like anyone else.
We did this 8 years ago. Arnold wasn't that old to have anything on the list.
Neither was North Bay Haven.
North Bay Haven was a request, though. Now, time out for a minute, because if you're going to argue about North Bay Haven with me, we're done.
While Husfeldt declined to answer more questions about North Bay Haven specifically, he did go on to answer other questions about the money. He and Moss did say the decision to keep the North Bay Haven request on the list was made by the committee that helped develop the list.
I don't think that it necessarily has to do in every case with the age of the school. You can have one that did not have some particular facility that they needed, even though it was a fairly new school, and that would qualify.
Miller claims financing the Bayhaven projects helps bring them to the same level of other campuses. He says the Oversight Committee recommended, and the board approved, removing an Arnold project from the list because they deemed it wasn't necessary. All three believe the tax is essential to the vitality of Bay District schools.
And better schools turn out better students. I don't think there's any question about that.
In Panama City, Leanna Scacchetti, News Channel 7.
District leaders say the priorities list was put together by need, not by equal distribution to each school. They say they used an evaluation point system to determine each project's priority.
Moss, Miller, and Husfeld anticipate Arnold and Bozeman could see items on the next list starting in 2020 if the tax is approved by voters for another cycle. You can find documents on expenditures, the priority list, and more on our website, WJHG.com.